Welcome everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how to build an empire of success. We have talked about building an empire before, but we're going to be doing it in a different way today. And that's going to be giving you two paths only. If you only had two choices, which one would you take? You have to take either the left or the right. In mindset, in coaching, we learn about the middle path. But when we're growing up, we are only told that we can go left or that we can go right. We can choose path 1 or path 2. That option typically leads to people going into a direction that is not conducive to happiness, to fulfillment, to joy. Sometimes you can't find it, but it's the myth of happiness, the myth of joy. It's literally a false narrative, a false hope that we are given at an early age. And then at some point we realize as adults, I think we are in over our heads, or we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Maybe 75% of the world won't even think about it, that they went left or right and that they made the wrong choice. They just say, life is life, right? I learned and this is a lesson for me. But then there's going to be about 25% of people who are going to say, you know what? Yes, I might have went left. I might have went right. Maybe you went down the middle the first time, but you're willing to make some changes. You're willing to invest in yourself. You're willing to sacrifice. If you can be that person, one of those 25 percenters, I know we talk about being the top 1% of the world, and that's a great aspiration to have. But many people who aspire to be that 1%, who are those 1%, they don't have the happiness that I'm going to be talking about today. Though we can find happiness along the way in life, though we can do the right things, and though we can meet the right people, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that, since we have all the money, all the material wealth, that all of a sudden we're going to be happy. Now, money does solve many problems. I'm not going to say money doesn't solve problems. But when we're young, we are told that money is the root of everything that we need, that we want. So we want a big house, we need money. We want to have a family, we need money for that too. I understand there's aspects to you can have love and not need money. But in our world today, money plays a pivotal role. So we can't escape that. And so when we are talking about, how to build an empire of success, money is typically the way we do it. Now, there's the two paths that I talked about early on, and we're going to split it between the genders because I'm going to do it even more different than typical. Now, I've talked about individual aspects of this in both regards, both men and women, but today we're just going to keep it neutral. We're just going to keep it politically correct, and we're going to just give you the two paths. You get to choose. You're going to say, there's more than those two paths. Of course, I understand there's more than those two paths. But I'm talking about how to build an empire of success, the ones that we're given, not the one that we find out. So the first one is, let's start with the ladies. The ladies have two choices, right? So you can go off to college, get your education, become a boss babe, and do really well in life, right? Put your career first. You can work your way up the corporate ladder, and then you can maybe find happiness. You can find wealth. You can buy all the things that you want. You can be independent. You don't need a man to protect and provide for you. You can do that yourself. That is one option that you can do. And that option is something many ladies are taking today. I have my own opinion on this option, but we do have to look at the aspect of this is a choice. Because when feminism came about, and they said, make sure you get your education, put yourself first, don't start a family too young. They were coming from a place of, I did it, I'm not happy, I'm trying to make you happy. That turned into the disdain of men for some reason. And I understand why. It's because it's like if you have a rival, and that rival is just always trying to beat you, it can get a little bit tiring. And you're just like, I just want to deal with my rival anymore. I just don't like my rival. Because it's easier to not like something that is causing you angst or anguish or trouble or problems. And so rivals can do that. So that turned into the hatred of men. Now, do all feminists hold this ideal of the hatred of men? No, of course not. But we just look at the aspect, this seed that was planted there. So those individuals that go off, get a career, start a family later, there's nothing wrong with that again, as I said. But many people who are in that position, they maybe don't want to work their whole life. They want to maybe be a stay-at-home mom one day. So it's like you are told to do one thing and then you do the other thing. And you just say, well, I'm going to do the other thing later. It's like, I'm going to be happy later. I'm going to do this right now because I think this is going to make me happy, and then I'm going to be happy later. This is something that I had to learn, and many people learn growing up, doing the process of life, because you don't necessarily know until you do it and feel it for yourself. Because yes, you can have great parents, you can have great coaches and mentors, but unless you do it yourself, you're going to be like, I'm just going to do what I want to do, right? And most people do. However, what happens with this mindset is that you have a mix of you want to start a family and you also want to have a career. So you mix in the dating, you mix in the going out, having relations, and maybe you have an uh-oh. You say, uh-oh, I am pregnant. What that means is you have a baby that you have to take responsibility for. And some people don't want to take responsibility. And again, that's another choice. But if you do want to take a choice, now we have to look at the epidemic of single moms. Now, single moms can be those boss babe CEOs, education. They don't need a man. They have that seed that was planted in them. So what happens when we're 18, 19, 20? We think we know everything. We think we are old the world. The entitlement is there. Our imagination might be hurting because if you go to the public school system, you will learn that imagination is not necessary for your cultivation. However, imagination is necessary for your success in building the empire that you need to build, because you have to imagine what you can see in the world, and then you have to be brave enough to bring it into reality. Some people are just not going to be brave. Some people are just not going to be ambitious. Some people are just not going to push themselves to glory. So when you have that mindset, you give yourself so many issues, ladies, when you put career first, family later. Then we have the aspect of having a family. And I know the ladies are probably thinking at this point, well, if I have a family sooner than later, I'm going to have more problems because I'm not going to have any money to raise the family. And I agree with you 100%. It is more difficult to raise a family when you're not established in your career. If you are building your career and you have a little one, the priorities might be mixed up because you might have to pay for advertising, but then you also need to buy some diapers. And you might not see the correlation between the two, but both require responsibility. Both require a choice. Both require you to make some money. When you're looking at your life at that point, okay, I want to start a family. I'm starting a family. I started a family. And now after this, you need to make a choice. You could be a stay-at-home mom. You could be a working mom. You can figure what you want to do next, right? So you chose to have a kid early. So the two options for ladies are have a kid later or have a kid at an appropriate earlier age rather than waiting to 35, and pregnancy is a little bit more risky. Now, I understand science and the advances in technology, but it doesn't necessarily mean that our mindset is going to advance also. Typically, what happens when we give ourselves that path of left or right, one or two, to go to school or to start a family, what's going on in the brain is we're looking at something and we're saying, how long can I put this off until I need to do it? Some people just want to start a family sooner. Some people, they want to start a career sooner. As I said earlier, it's easier to have a career and then start a family than it is to have a family and then want to start a career later or just wanting to have a family. Now, here's the wonderful aspect to being a lady. And if you want to start a family early, you can choose to not have a career. You can choose to not go out and fight and be masculine we can have you stay at home. We can have you take care of the kids, raise the kids. And I mean, our kids are suffering today. I mean, look around. There's just so many kids that are misguided. And one of the main causing reasons for that is a broken household. So when you have that boss babe mentality, you are doing the right thing for yourself, right? And you're making money. Yes, in your mind, you're probably saying, I'm doing this for my kids. I understand that. But your kids don't. Your kids are going to fall off from your glory, and they're going to be in a situation that might not be better than where you started off. And it's a higher probability of that happening. We can look at the facts. We can look at the statistics. Single parent households, especially when it comes from a woman's standpoint, do not do well, especially with boys. Boys need men. And when you don't have a male role model, you get the society that we have today. Weak, fragile-minded individuals who are entitled, who think they're owed everything, who don't show up. So we spend all this time showing up, doing the right thing, but we're not there for the people who need us the most, our family. When we look at the empire of success for ladies, I make it very simple. You can take path 1 or path 2, left to right. You can start a career first and go down that path, or you can start a family early on and start that path. Now, both have pros and cons, so I don't want you to think that you need to start a family or you need to only go to career first. You have to make that choice for yourself, but you do need to understand the repercussions also, because I think people just kind of go in blindly and they think, oh, I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to do this. Sometimes you're going to find on the road of life that you might have a plan, but you might have the wrong map too. So the map that we were given is not necessarily conducive to happiness. So we have to figure out, well, how can I be most happy? And we're going to get to that at the end of it, right? Because building an empire is all about fulfillment, all about gratitude in the end. But when we only have our 2 paths left to right, 1 or 2, we have to start to question ourselves. Is there another option? Then we get into the fellas. The fellas are a little bit more straightforward, not to, make it sound so easy, because men have to do a lot more building up than ladies. Now, we still have the same 2 paths. The man can go off at 18, 19, 20, go to college, build himself up, get a career, pick a field he wants to be in for the rest of his life, maybe, and then start working. That's an option. He also has another option to say, you know what, I'm not going to have a career and I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build up. I know what's happening in your mind right now. Can't the ladies be entrepreneurs? Why do the ladies have to start a family? This is going to be different, right? This is the aspect of our paths 1 or 2. Because a man, yes, can start a family at the age of 18, but he still has to work, right? He doesn't have the option to be a stay-at-home dad. Now, maybe he does, right? That's going to be a very small portion of the world populace, right? Not many women are going to want to go out, make the money, make the bread, and be mentally sound that their husband is sitting on their butt watching some kids. It doesn't work. Mentally, she needs to see that the husband is going out, fighting the world, coming home, making the bacon, putting bread on the table. That is what she likes. That's what most women are attracted to, right? Most women are not going to be attracted to a man who's fat, sitting on the sofa, watching reruns of The Office. That's not attractive to ladies. This is borderline like, all right, well, what is attractive? What is not attractive? What is appropriate? What is not appropriate? There's different rules for men and women when we look at our paths that we're given, right? So it's just like how there's 2 different genders, there's 2 different paths. And again, we do have a middle path, but we're not going to be talking about that. We're just talking about the paths that we are given when we're growing up. So men have a choice to go out, get a career, build from there. And then they have the option to be entrepreneurs, build from there. So the end result for men is they have to build, right? They don't have a choice. Men are not valuable unless they build. So if a man is not building, if a man is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, sure enough, he's not going to find a lady readily that's going to put up with his BS or give him the life that he wants. Maybe having kids in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. I understand that there's some happy men at the age of 18. They have a family and they have a happy career, but that is the minority of men. Most men who have kids at an early age are in the rat race, who are struggling to put food on the table, to buy diapers, to make ends meet, because they just weren't established yet. Men operate in a different rule set in the world. When it comes to the rule set, the easiest way I can explain is by using an overly high sense of value and admission. So, for example, if I'm in Miami and I want to go on a yacht, I would have to either have paid for the yacht, I would have to have connections with these high profile individuals who are on this yacht. And then they have to see me as a person who's credible to come on the yacht to talk about whatever they want to talk about or hang around. They have to see that. They're not going to just find me hanging out at McDonald's, sitting down, playing World of Warcraft or whatever people are playing now. Just being there, say, hey, you want to come on the boat? No, that doesn't happen. That invite doesn't happen, right? Men typically hang around other men who are successful. So if you're a successful man, you're going to hang around other successful men so you can build an empire. You're not going to just want to say, oh, look at this person, look at this slob. He's not even taking care of himself. Let me bring him into my circle. It doesn't work that way. We have different values. We have a different set of rule set. Now, let's look at the aspects of left and right, 1 and 2. You can go out, get your career, become an accountant that you wanted to become that engineer that you wanted to become. Some jobs are going to make more money than other jobs, right? So when you make some money, then you can say, okay, now I'm making some money. I can start to provide for a family. And you might put happiness in the back burner. Happiness is not going to be what you're looking for every single day. You're saying to yourself, how can I provide for my family? How can I be the best man possible? What do I need to do, right? There can be also an aspect of, yes, I'm working a 9 to 5. I'm living a mediocre life. I'm not making ends meet, but this is the path that I took and I'm stuck on it. Both happen in the world of men, and it's magnified since we're men and we have to deal with a different set of rules when it comes to that. Because again, a lady doesn't have to truly go after her career if she wants to find a man and stay at home wife. But most men just can't say, well, I'm going to go find sugar mama and then be a stay at home husband or dad. Again, it happens. It's just not that option that is really talked about. So when we're presented our paths, like in high school, for example, that's presented as one of the options to go to work. And when you go to work, that's when you work hard, you make ends meet. Maybe you could buy a house if you work hard enough, and then maybe you can be happy, right? But it's a myth. So then what happens is we have the other path, right? Oh, we don't have to go to college. We don't have to go get our education. We can become entrepreneurs and we can build from there, because either path, A or B, 1 or 2, whatever it is, left or right, we have to build. I said it early on. And if you don't build, you are a man that's not going to be deemed as valuable. So this is, again, one of those terms like, okay, is a man valuable if he doesn't have anything? Of course, we all have some intrinsic value within us. But what's happening is we are only told that if you want to have value as a man, you have to be an extremely successful person. Because if you're not, you're going to get the run of the mill. You're going to get the shorthand of the stick. You're going to be in the rat race. You're not going to be happy or fulfilled. So when we're told that there's another option, most men are taking it. Oh, I could be an entrepreneur. I don't have to go off to college and I don't need an education. Of course, you might be in a profession like a trade, like a plumber, a carpenter. And from there, you're going to get real life experience working with a master craftsman or a master plumber, a master electrician. You're going to do that. But there's a different aspect to it. Now, the aspect to it is you are building yourself up, but not in the sense of I'm going to school to build myself up. Most ladies are not going to say, I'm going to go get myself a mentor. I'm going to get myself a coach. I'm going to get myself, a trade. No, they take nursing positions. They take the entrepreneur path, whatever, when they do business finance as their degree, or management, whatever their degree is, psychology. From there, they use their degree to try to build. When a man has the choice to either get a degree or build on a trade or a skill. Because if we look at skilled laborers in the whole entire world, almost every trade, 90% is dominated by men. So that's just a generalization. Of course, it's up to 99% in some, like plumbing. I just want to say a generalization, 90% of trade is done by men. Why is that? Can ladies not do trade? Of course they can, right? If they want to do trade, they can. If they want to be a carpenter, they can. It's just that they're told you have two paths: go to school or start a family. And men, you're told to go out, get your education, or go start a trade. So when you start a trade, of course, you can work for a big company. You can work for someone who gives you a paycheck, and you can also start your own thing. Now you're starting your own thing. Now you're being an entrepreneur, you're being a businessman, and then you can build from there. You could build your empire of success. Which one is right? Path 1 or path 2? I talk about mindset often, and I talk about there's the middle path. Now, we're not going to be talking about the middle path today, but if you want me to talk about the middle path, just in the comments below, put middle. And I will definitely get an episode out there talking about the middle path to success, to glory by the genders. And when I do that, you're going to see that there's a lot more options than just what we're told in school. So you don't have to just be the entrepreneur and build yourself up, or you don't have to just go out and get the career and do everything. I said early on that I'm going to tie this all together. Regardless of who you are, what gender you are, you're going to have those two options. What is something that we think about quite often that we might not reach? Happiness. I said it early on, we're going to talk about it. And both are going to be tied to happiness, right? So we look at our paths, and the path is going to be tied to happiness. So we can get happiness if we follow one of these two paths. But I found that if you can find a different path than one of these two paths, happiness has a higher probability. So if we go through the standard way of happiness, right? Go out, get a job, get your career, start a family or whatever, you make sure you got the right guy. You might find that you don't get happiness that way. And yes, you went through the right things and you went through life and circumstances, but happiness is not so much of a destination or dependent on your acts, but it's more dependent on your mindset. Because when we look at how to build an empire, regardless if you want to be a career-oriented person, or if you want to be a person who goes off and starts your own or builds a family, right? Regardless of what you want to do, ask yourself this simple question. What are you trying to accomplish long term? Do you want to be single? Do you want to be family-oriented? Do you want to have a lot of money? Is money one of those things? What type of lifestyle you want? There's so many aspects of happiness that has to be looked at, that happiness has become very complex. So when we're building our empire of success, is happiness part of success? You have to ask yourself that, because some people are saying, well, I would rather sacrifice myself, my happiness, to be successful. So when you're building your empire of success, are you building it to happiness too? I found that in order to have a successful life, you have to have it filled with abundance. Happiness is one of those things, because you can have all the money, you can have all the fame, all the accolades, all the kids in the world, and you cannot be happy. I know almost every situation possible. Men having a bunch of kids, ladies having a bunch of kids, maybe by different fathers. And so they have a bunch of kids, maybe they make good money, and they're just still not happy. They have all of these issues because they didn't do the one critical connecting point between the paths. And that is going to be, what do you want? Most people just kind of go down a path of what they're told. They think they only have two options, right? Building the empire of success is built on those two options. However, those two options can create a hybrid. They can morph as you go on. For example, me, I started off I'm going to be that person going off to college, getting my degree, starting a career. During my career, I said, this is not going to bring me the fulfillment I'm looking for in life. I need to do something different. So I decided to be an entrepreneur. So I went down the first path, checked it out. Now I'm an entrepreneur, checked it out. And now I have the best of both worlds. I started a career. I understand corporate America. And then I say, you know what? This is not for me. Then I started an entrepreneur path. And then I said, this is also a very difficult path, because you would think going to a 9-to-5 soulless work, meaningless work, maybe you might have a career like I had. Teaching is very fulfilling, but then you have to look at the long-term effect of you being a teacher. What is it going to bring when you're 65, 70 years old, when you're looking back at life? Yes, you change a lot of lives, but are you going to get that fulfillment that you were trying to get? Did you build an empire that you can call successful? I found that if I kept on my teaching path, if I kept on my accounting path, I would not have said I built an empire of success. But when I became an entrepreneur, now I have a different set of rules. Yes, I have to be successful. Yes, I have to make a difference in the world. But how I do that is very different, is wildly different than if I just said, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm just going to make some money. Because it's not as easy as it is, right? Most people who start businesses end up quitting and they end up getting their regular 9-to-5 job back because it's easier to get a paycheck than it is to start and build something yourself. Because you have to have the mindset, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you might not make a profit for maybe 5 to 10 years. And that's a long time to not make any money. But you do have to ask yourself, are you willing to build? Are you willing to prepare? I have good news. You don't have to wait 10 years in order to find success. You don't have to wait 10 years in order to find happiness. You can do that today. You can go to revenconcepts.com, get yourself some coaching. We can go down the different paths. We can look at the path that you went on, and we can find your appropriate next steps. Because when it comes to building an empire, I mean, we are at 350 episodes of the podcast right now. And that is through dedication, through hard work, through discipline, diligence. It's a mindset that life is not going to be easy at any given point. But I decided that just because life is not going to be easy, it doesn't mean I have to take the middle road or I have to take a different road. Because I understand we're giving two choices. We are told to go to school, start a family, or build a business and build yourself up. Men, you have to build yourself up in order to be an asset. Ladies, you are born with your value. I talked about it before. Not saying that you should be entitled and that you're gold and eventually you're going to be rust. Just understand that there's going to be a different set of rule sets for men and women. So regardless of what path you have taken, regardless of what path you are going to take, if you have a child, share this episode with them because they are going to understand that they have those two choices in their mind. And then they're going to start to think, well, I can do something different. If we look at either of those paths, right? You want to be an entrepreneur. What does that look like? What does that feel like for you, right? Entrepreneur is a very loose phrase, meaning that you're going to go off and do something on your own, or maybe together with a group of people or a partner, whatever that aspect is of entrepreneurship. But understand that when it comes to building your empire of success, you do have to give it a definition. You have to give it a destination. You have to give it some thoughts. And sometimes we don't make it all the way there. We say, if we get this, then we'll be happy. If we do this, then we're going to be fulfilled. If we do this, then everything is going to fall into place. But sometimes life is not as pretty as that. Sometimes there's going to be curveballs along the way. Sometimes there's going to be aspects to life that we are not going to know until we live, right? Wisdom can only go so far. Knowledge can only let us see as much as we can see. Our life is going to be built on failure, built on trial and experience. And as you go through life, you're going to find that there's just so many more amazing things in life that you might find out at a later age. So if you start a family early, what does that mean for you? Can you not go out and have relations with other people? Maybe you find someone else who's a better match. What does that do to your mindset? What does that do to your brain? What does that do to your thinking? that has an effect, both men and women. Same thing if you start a career. Maybe you find a career that is going to make you money, but it doesn't bring you happiness. You don't like doing it. So you find yourself in a soulless job. Many people do it. Why do they do it? Many people say, I'm going to start my own business. They start their own business, but then they quit. Why did they do it? Why did they do that? So there's so many aspects to building an empire of success. We're given two options when we are growing up, but there's also a third option, the middle road, the middle path. And like I said, if you want that episode on that middle path, in the comments below, put down middle, send me an email, coaching in session middle, and I will know that you are ready to go down that middle path. You're ready to find and build an empire, that you're going to find and build that empire of success that's going to be founded on you having high achievement, you having fulfillment, happiness, and understanding that life doesn't just have to be as clean and cut as work your whole life and then maybe get a couple years at the end and be happy. We can be happy today. We could be fulfilled today. We could be successful tomorrow. What path and what choice will you take? The world is waiting to see, and I'm waiting to hear from you. So as always, thank you everyone for watching Coaching in Session. If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.